everyone, and welcome to the Scots Whay podcast. And this is the second of our Best of 2017 podcasts. Hopefully, you've already heard us talking about the best films of the year. And this time we're going to talk music. And I am joined once more by Chris Lorde. Hello, Chris. And also by Wesley Shearer.
Hello again,
And looking after us is our sound guru, Ian Gregson. The year in music. We're going to start talking about the Scottish stuff that we covered on Scots Whay, and then we'll maybe look at some other stuff as well. But there were certain albums that stuck out for me. Sometimes a year it's more song orientated, or there's great singles come out or whatever. But there were some fantastic albums that came out this year. I'm going to start with Campfires in Winter and Ischemia. And now people will think I'm doing this just to be nice, but because Wesley is involved with Campfires in Winter. But it came out at the beginning of the year, I think, right at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, February, yeah.
And it's just a terrific record. It's, how do you describe it? It's a kind of melodic... how do you describe it, Wesley? Well, I'm trying to think about the right words for it.
I can't. I simply can't. I think the sound of Campfires in Winter has evolved immensely over the years, and it's always been a question that I've kind of struggled to describe. I mean, the way the band jokingly described their sound that they lifted off of a review from a while ago was post-pop, basically.
Yeah.
So it's got the element of kind of all your traditional post-punk kind of feel to it. It's got a little bit of krautrock in there. It's got a little bit of kind of chorus and kind of orchestral feel to it. It's very loud. It's very kind of meandering, but in a very focused direction. I love it. I like to say that, aren't I?
Yeah, of course you like to say it. I'd be surprised if you didn't.
I'm really, really proud of what they've managed to create, and it's been a long time coming.
Well, I'd say for me, it was one of these records I listened to the first time and I thought, yeah, I like this. But then I kept going back to it, I kept putting it on, and it really grew on me. The songs really grew, the sound really grew. It became not just a collection of songs, but worked really as a whole. You know, they really work from track to track. Some great tracks on it. Favourite is Greeted by the Storm, which I just think is an amazing record. And also, and you might be able to tell us a bit about this, amazing video to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, so Greeted by the Storm is a song that the guys had actually put together 2013 now, I think it was. Oh God, that's a while ago, 4 years ago. Yeah.
It is.
And it was a song that they were commissioned by a Dutch museum, the Groninger Museum in Groningen, and they basically commissioned 20 artists or so, 15 to 20 artists from around the world that they just got in touch with. I don't know how they discovered Campfires music, which would be an interesting question to ask them, but they picked Campfires as one of their 20, and basically the idea was that they sent each of these artists a painting, an old painting from the 19th century that was part of a bigger art collector's collection. I can't remember the name of the art collector, but they were basically putting his collection on display, and they wanted this sort of kind of sound and vision, audio kind of visual experience to accompany the exhibit. So they got each artist to pick a piece of art and write a song to accompany it. So that song was actually born out of this project. It was released as a free download in 2013, and it was part of this CD and part of the museum and all that kind of stuff. But they basically reworked it, reimagined it, added the kind of beautiful sort of electronic sort of sound at the start of it, the kind of repetitive beat that goes through the whole song and really, really lifts it to a different place, and it was fantastic. And the video itself is, we've been really, really lucky. We managed to work with a Edinburgh director called Stuart Edwards, who is phenomenal, and all of the guys are in the band and myself are really into film and really into a certain style and a certain style of video, and we've always been really keen to not include the guys in the video. Yeah. So that's a challenge in and of itself, and we've done different videos in the past few years. we've done sort of a kind of story-like video with Daniela Nardini in it, which we kind of lucked out on as
video.
well. Actually, totally lucked out on that. The director just happened to be her neighbour. And we've done a few other ones that kind of fit the kind of vibe of the music, if you like. But we basically just sat down with Stuart, and he was really keen to work with us, and we decided, and he was completely on board with doing 3 videos for us. And we did Greeted by the Storm was the first video, if I remember correctly, and the second video was, I'm going to get absolutely slated for this because I can't remember what it was.
Free Me From the Hell.
Yes, Free Me From the Hell. Free Me From the Hell was the first one, sorry, and Greeted by the Storm was the second video. And they kind of, I like the idea of tying the 3 videos together, the third is still to come, but they're both so different, but they're both so like their own identity, and they're clearly done by Stuart, who's put his entire stamp on the video. We give him free rein completely to just do what we wanted to do.
There is a feel of kind of Anton Corbijn in the style of them, and I really should go and check them out. They're fantastic, but I mean they match with the music. And I think what I was stumbling to say about the music itself is that it feels lovelorn, and there's kind of, you know, songs for the broken-hearted. That's what I felt about when I was listening to it. There's a real sense of melancholy right through it, which is actually still uplifting, if that makes sense at all. But it's a great collection of songs, and I think for some reason, maybe it came out at the start of the year, and that's always a difficult time to release things, but it seems to have been lost. I mean, like we were talking about film last time, all that time ago. Sometimes the things that you see at the beginning of the year, you know, they've got to be really special for you to remember them now. And for me, you know, it was kind of one of the first names I put down when I was putting my list together. Other albums which came out this year, which I really liked, was the Forever by the BMX Bandits, who just continue, you know, to make phenomenal pop records, and there's no surprise there. I don't think if you like the BMX Bandits, you would have loved Forever. Siobhan Wilson's album, There Are No Saints, was one that really struck me, and I saw her play. I've seen her play a couple of times actually, but I saw her play at the Glad Cafe, and I mean, if you're talking about songs about heartbreak, maybe there's a theme in the music I've been listening to this year, but they're great songs that would just break your heart. Very much sometimes with a feel of early to mid 90s American music, like Throwing Muses, Liz Phair, that sort of feel about, you know, kind of pared down production, some scuzzy guitars, heartbreaking voice, really low production. You really check out Siobhan Wilson's There Are No Saints if you haven't. And I believe she's trying to crowdfund her next album, so support. Maybe we'll talk later about how difficult it is increasingly and the different ways of getting music out there. I think most good Scottish music this year came from small labels, as it kind of has been increasingly over the past few years. Again, releases from last night from Glasgow, Song by Toad, Olive Grove Records, Holy Smokes Records, with some really good stuff with Harry and the Hendersons and the Strange Blue Dreams, and Errant Media in Edinburgh. All released some great music this year, including Sister John's Return from the Sea, Annie Booth's An Unforgiven Light, who I saw play live as well. An album called Asleep in the Catskills by the Great Albatross. You got that? Wesley's pointing, he's smiling. So this was a record, I didn't know anything about the Great Albatross, and I listened to one track on it, came my way, and then just immediately out and got the record and just went, this is astonishing. For a collection of songs that works as a whole. It felt like it was made by a musician that had been going for a long, long time, a really mature collection of songs. What do you like about it?
Yeah, it's like exactly what you just said, extremely sort of accomplished record. It's a sort of beautiful blend of American indie folk with the kind of your familiar kind of sounds of the Scottish indie pop scene that we're so famed for, and that makes sense since it was recorded between California and Glasgow, I think. But
it's got a real Californian feel
really
to it.
Does. It's such a warm album. The warmth that oozes off that album is astonishing. I mean, it just draws you right in from the beginning, and it just kind of holds you right until the very last note of that album, and it's so accomplished. And I've had the pleasure of having him on a bill with. Do you know, I can't even remember now if it was with Michael or if it was with Campfires, but we had them playing at the Hug and Pine, and they were absolutely fantastic. It was Michael that we played with actually, and saw them again at St Luke's, and again just blew me away. And
I've managed to miss them every time they've played. Is it, what kind of setup is it? Because it sounds like a full band on the record.
It is, yeah, full band setup. I think it's kind of, I might be entirely wrong here, but I think it might be sort of interchangeable at times. I think we use a lot of kind of touring session musicians that kind of are kind of playing a lot of different bands in Glasgow, but yeah, really, really, really great, and on the brand new kind of fledgling label that was LP Records.
That's right,
and I mean, Lorenzo knows his music and knows what's worth kind of getting behind in terms of a kind of up and coming artist. I mean, I think the main guy's been kicking about for a few years now. I feel like he'd done some solo stuff maybe. I think the album title comes from a song that he'd recorded a few years ago before he fully got the project together.
Yeah, the songs have been kicking about for a while. You're talking like a good 3 or 4 years, I think, some of these songs, and this is just them finally being
collected and produced together
for him now. Yeah, it's a brilliant album, really great.
Yeah.
And yeah, like really kind of auspicious start for LP as a record label. We were talking last year about like how much of an impact the shop had made in its first year in business, and now this was the year that saw Lorenzo launch a label out of the shop as well, and try and take it a little bit further and kind of making a scene around it, and off to a really good start, not just with the Great Albatross album, but with a couple of EPs from American Clay and Coldest as well, which were both really strong. The American Clay one in particular, I loved. Skyhooks, just great kind of like 90s shoegazy style American indie, kind of your Pavements, your Weezers, all that kind of.
What I really liked about the releases and what they did was they didn't try and overdo it. They think we're going to get stuff which is really good, and every release was quality. And I think again, often small labels can try and do too much too soon and say, well, I have to get lots of stuff out there, and it can ruin a reputation very easily by doing that. And I think you're right, Chris, the stuff that LP Records put out was fantastic, and made you look forward to whatever they're going out next. Because what I think all the labels that we mentioned here do is you look at what they put out and you think, right, I trust them, their trust names.
Exactly what we're going to say. I think we touched on it last year, didn't we? It's about, if we didn't, then we've discussed it before, but it's about building that trust in a small independent label, and if they know what they want to put out and you trust exactly what they're putting out, then you're going to buy into it no matter what. And that's a great start for LP.
I think what you said about the Sleep in the Catskills album as well, it really is a mix of a kind of Scottish indie sensibility, whatever that is, but taking it to almost 1970s Haight Asbury, and putting it there. It's a terrific record. Have you got any Scottish music that you wanted to mention?
That was the main one I wanted to mention. I was kind of taken by the Outlines album, which was great as well. I mean, unfortunately missed them. I was kind of familiar with the project. I was working on a dissertation a couple of years ago, which I won't bore you with, but about sort of kind of community arts and the creative arts and cultural arts in kind of underprivileged communities, and one of them was obviously Platform and Easterhouse, and I was speaking to Kath and Joseph about it and interviewed her about it just around about the time her and James were working on this project together, and that culminated in their yearly festival, which I've forgotten the name of. It's something like Outlines Festival actually, but they performed it at that festival at Platform and Easterhouse for the community that they basically wrote the songs about. So the idea is, I think R.M. Hubbard did it a couple of years ago as well, that they get together with the kind of people that go to Platform and the wider community in Easterhouse, and they listen to their experiences and they write songs based on the conversations I've had with these people, which can sound a little bit disingenuous, but it's not. It's something that they're totally direct and they totally get involved with, and is a really positive thing in my opinion. And the songs that came out of it were really great, so I didn't really expect it to be turned into a full project and a full album, and it was great. I went along to see it at Auditorium. I don't know if you went as well, Chris?
No, I think it clashed with something else.
Oh yeah, I went to see Japanese Breakfast.
I was at Japanese Breakfast.
So I did both that night. Oh, that's right, because we had the same night.
Yeah.
Hanoi Bike Shop, and then a gig or two. So I went along to see the first 3 or 4 songs of that, and it was fantastic. unfortunately missed the ABBA cover, which I was really disappointed about, but and then went on to Japanese Breakfast. But I really liked that album, and Ponto Mama's album, and that's taken quite a while to get to where it is, but entirely off the weight, and the production on it is like just this kind of shimmering production throughout it. It's fantastic. And then Sacred Pause as well, I really enjoyed that album too. I think Chris will probably elaborate more than that.
No, I absolutely, like, it's one that, like, I really enjoyed it when it first came out. Again, like, I knew it was kind of a while coming, and really enjoyed it when it came out. Did not expect it to win the Say.
We always talk about the Say, so we should say something about it.
Yeah, which I'm glad it did, but it feels like, it almost feels like it's too fun for awards. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it doesn't feel like it's got this kind of buoyancy to it and this kind of lightness of touch that you don't usually associate with
music prizes.
I don't want to say convinced, but like I thought Ella Orleans was going to take it this year. I thought it was going to be her year.
You famously usually pick the winner, don't you?
Yeah.
So was that what you're saying? You got Ella Orleans.
So Ella Orleans. Well, to be fair, Sacred Paws were my second choice, but like that's so this streak isn't entirely broken, but yeah, no, I really like the Sacred Paws album a lot. It's just for a duo, like you can hear that. It's one of those albums where you can really hear that they're friends. You know what I mean? Without wanting to be too pat about it, like the kind of the love and affection that they have for each other really shines through, and kind of like just the way that they play off each other on the record, just in the kind of the kind of lyrics and the way they're delivered, and just their interplay and just everything about it. It's a really, again, without wanting to sound completely reductionist or like pat, or it's a very charming record, you know. I'm glad that it got whatever additional exposure it got from the Say, and they're going to be taking it to the Hydro later this month, because they're opening for Mogwai.
Fantastic.
On a bill with Mogwai and Ride, no less, at the Hydro.
You're plugged it already.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a great gig.
Yeah.
I was I'm asked, which I'm delighted to do every year, from the long list, pick your 5. Is it 5? I think, to kind of going none for 5 this year. Didn't get any of the albums that I thought should have been on the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's, I'm not bitter. But there was some good records there. I actually thought R.M. Hubbart's Telling the Trees.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it goes without saying that R.M. Hubbard brings out a record that's going to be excellent.
Yeah.
And it has been every time he's done so, yeah.
Absolutely. Ella Orleans' record, was that one that you particularly enjoyed?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I think it's a pretty challenging listen. Like, I think it's kind of an elaboration on her last album, which I think we talked about. Was it last year we talked about it, or the year before we talked about Upper Hell, which was a fairly concise, by the standards of what it would go on to be, like single disc, like 48 minutes or so. A little bit poppy in places, you'd say, but she finally got the funding to expand it into her kind of full vision for it, which is Circles of Upper and Lower Hell, and it shares some elements with the previous album, but it's become this big sprawling like double album influenced by like Dante's Inferno. And I saw it launched at Stereo, I think, about just over a year ago. It was really intense. She just played the full album straight through, so it was about an hour and a quarter, hour and 20 minutes with, silent film projections of like, old, early 20th century depictions of hell and stuff like that, and demons and all this. So it was a pretty intense night, but very good album. That was a 2016 release. I feel like I might possibly talked about it last year, but had a sense that this might be the year that she finally got the wider recognition that the Say would grant her. But she has devoted fans, so I'm sure
she has definitely got devoted fans.
She's
absolutely
not any worse for not taking the top prize.
I'm going to talk a little bit, get my folk on here, because there was 3 records which I think you could kind of loosely call folk, which came out, 2 of them quite recently, but you had State Broadcasters, Different Past, who are just fantastic, and if you get the chance to see them live, they're terrific. Also, Finlay Napier's album Glasgow, which is more, he's known for folk music, but this has got a bit more pop sensibility to it, if that's the right word. He covers A Walk Across the Rooftops on it, which is an incredibly brave thing to do, but I think he just about gets away with that. And he also covers a cod liver oil and the orange juice as well, and he really does that.
That's excellent.
It's a love letter to Glasgow. It's his love letter to Glasgow. There's songs about the Goths and the necropolis. There's songs about the wire burners. There's songs about the Locarno, even about the Blue Lagoon. It's not a concept album, I don't think. It's just someone who wanted to write about the city that they really love, and I really love. So it was kind of obviously going to do well in my eyes.
We should specify that the Blue Lagoon is a chip shop for a European listener.
We should for your
as famously visited by Justin Bieber, as the posters proudly proclaim.
Yes, the Blue Lagoon is a chain of very fine fish and chip shops found under bridges and things in Glasgow. Another one which I've been listening to loads since it came out is Blue Rose Code's The Water of Leith. I love it, Blue Rose Code stuff for years and years. This is a big record that he's got a Maggie McInnes, he's got Corinne Polwart on it, various other people that have played on it. It's if Finlay Naper's album is a love letter to Glasgow, this feels like a love letter to Scotland. It's just a beautiful record, and one that I can listen to over and over again. Very well produced, very highly produced, really is a record I highly recommend. Any records that came out, Scottish records, that you want to mention before we move on?
I really like it's a fairly recent release, so still kind of not getting the grips with it, but it's still in a fairly recent rotation. I like the Spinning Coin album a lot, Paramore. They're the first signs to the Pastels own imprint as a kind of subsidiary of Domino Records, and it's pretty much what you'd expect from a Pastels from a Pastels signing. They sound quite like the Pastels, but they do it very well. It's a really charming record. And
what's the name of the actual record?
Spinning Coin is the band. Paramore is the name of the record. I think I saw them open for. I definitely saw them in Mono earlier in the year, and I can't remember if they were opening for Beach Slang or Francois and the Atlas Mountains, but it was one of them, one of the two, because they're both. I know they're like two gigs that I saw in Mono this year. I can't remember which one of them had Spinning Coin, but yeah, they're very good and worth checking out. I like the Babe album a lot as well. Just talking about Francois and the Atlas Mountains, because there's some crossover there. Is the kind of latest project of Gerard Black, who used to play keyboards for Francois and the Atlas Mountains and was in Findle Gask as well.
Oh yeah,
about 10 years ago.
Yes,
I don't know what you call it. It's an R&B project. It's very like heavily influenced by kind of like 90s R&B, and or kind of turn of the century R&B. It's just nice to hear that because the kind of thing you'd maybe more associate with like American bands like Dirty Projectors or something like that, and it's nice to hear a little bit of that, done by a Scottish act, although a fairly international Scottish act, because he does also have like one of the French guys who used to be in Francois and the Atlas Mountains is in the band, John Bailey Jr., who drums with Bossy Love, plays drums with him as well, so it's a kind of conglomeration of almost a supergroup, I feel like. It's very, and influences, as I say, from like R&B and kind of like 90s kind of dance culture and stuff as well, so there's a whole lot going on, but it's very, album's called Kiss and Tell. It's very much worth checking out.
There's a few bands I want to mention who released singles this year, and hopefully I know at least one of them's releasing an album next year, who are just fantastic. L Space, who sound like they should be soundtracking, if there's a Blade Runner 3, they're at the front to kind of do the music for that. Saw them live as well. It's difficult often to get a really highly produced electronic sound and do it live, but they managed to do it brilliantly. Another band, Half Formed Things, I really fell in love with. They only released a couple of things. I went through to Edinburgh to see them play the Voodoo Rooms, and as we know, it takes a lot to get me out of this city to go and see it somewhere else. But it was a great gig, and they're a fantastic band, Half Formed Things. Out of the Swim are another one. I think Canadian Falkirk marriage there. Again, you can hear the influences of both, which is interesting. And hardly new, but Monica Queen and Johnny Smiley are now again working together as Tenement and Temple. And they've got the first single out, Where the Wild Roses Grow, and there's going to be an album to follow that up. And I think Monica Queen is perhaps the greatest singer that's about at the moment in terms of Scottish singer. So I saw them play just last week, and it was amazing to see them play. Have you got any tips coming up that you can? Are you going to name your own? It's all right if you haven't.
I'm not entirely sure actually.
What's happening? I guess. Okay, what's happening then with Campfires and Michael and all?
Michael's been working on an album for a while, to be honest.
Michael Cassidy.
Michael Cassidy. Been working on his album for quite a while, and it's all a kind of DIY project at the moment. So he's kind of just taking his time with it. Right. And Campfires, Bob is pissed off to New York for 3 months, so he's coming back in December, and I'll be cracking a whip and making. No, I'm kidding on. I'll let him ease into what they're doing. As I say, there'll probably be another video coming and some sort of show early next year. But yeah, in terms of tips next year, as we were kind of chatting about, kind of just off mic, if you like, before we started this, I feel like I've kind of slipped out of being aware of a lot of the kind of Scottish stuff that's coming out, other than stuff that I'm already interested in. Like a lot of the names you mentioned there, I'm completely new to me, and I'm looking forward to checking them out.
Yeah, you should definitely. I think you'll really enjoy them. Have you seen anyone in the last year?
Yeah, there's a few that haven't necessarily released albums yet, but I'd be looking forward to hearing more from. I like Savage Mansion a lot, which is the latest project of Craig Angus, who used to be Poor Things. Okay. Again, it's that kind of sound, as I mentioned earlier, is quite in just now, particularly in Glasgow, which is that kind of 90s American indie sound. So I think I remember seeing Weezer played Glasgow a couple of months ago, and I remember being shocked to realise that tickets for it were like 40 quid or something. It's like you don't have to spend 40 quid to see Weezer in 2017. You can literally like spend a five or take a chance on any band in Glasgow for a five, and chances are that they'll be doing Weezer better than Weezer are currently doing Weezer. So yes, I think Savage Mansion are definitely £40 for Weezer. Yeah. So Savage Mansion definitely in that kind of lineage. I would say saw them on a bill with American Clay at Tuts actually over the summer. Which was kind of an ideal pairing. They played off each other really well. Yeah, a lot of fun. I really like, I'm not sure how you pronounce it because I've only ever seen it written down, Lilo, Lylo. I saw them open for Babe, the old hairdressers at Babe's album launch early in the year as well. They're also very much worth checking out in terms of like kind of woozy, kind of almost blue-eyed soul kind of stuff. There's a sax in play. There's a few kind of more yacht rocky sounds maybe, but a little bit more up tempo than you might expect from that. But so those are two that I'm looking forward to hearing more from.
I just remembered I also saw a duo called the Step Brothers. I don't know whether they are or not, but it was.
They're from Steps. That's why they're called the Step Brothers, right? That's the one. Yeah.
And they're like kind of Everly Brothers, Simon and Garfunkel harmonies, and they're. I'm really looking forward to kind of what they do next. Really interesting and quite different. You were saying how often there's musical themes which appear every now and again that you seem to go into any club or bar and that's what's playing. But they were really different, very smart as well. So it always impresses me. Well, let's go on to gigs so let's talk a little bit about gigs.
Okay.
Oh no, were you not expecting that? Were you expecting? Was that a curveball? Okay, let's not talk about gigs.
Frantically scrolling at the bottom of the list.
Sorry, man. Let's talk about.
No. I'm ready now. Yeah.
Okay.
So gigs. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't even know what gig of the year for me would have been. In terms of like, seen some pretty specials. Actually, do you know what? I do know what probably my gig of the year was, and it was. At the bars, it was probably the Flaming Lips at the bars. With Happy Meals opening, which was a well-matched pair. I'd kind of fallen out of love with the Flaming Lips a little bit over the last few years. They're one of my favourite bands when I was a teenager.
What do you think of the new album?
I like it, but again, like listening to it in and of itself, I almost kind of felt more obligation to go see the Flaming Lips because they were playing the Barras, and it's like I can't pass up the chance, no matter how kind of patchy their output's been over the last few years. I can't pass up the chance to see the Flaming Lips in the Barras, and it's one of those nights where it just completely rekindles your love of a band. Like it was absolutely it's everything that they do well. You know, it's the total showmanship. They always start with Race for the Prize, and there's the confetti cannons and the lights splashing, balloons dropping and stuff, and it's just a big total like you're like a kid again.
Did they still get folk up on stage and do all that?
They didn't get folk up on stage. Wayne Coyne still gets in a hamster ball and rolls out over the crowd, which this time they did. They saved that for the middle of the set this time. I hadn't seen them in about 7 or 8 years maybe. And they used to do that at the start of the set. You know, they'd get Wayne would go out in the hamster ball and then he'd go back up on stage, and then they'd do Race for the Prize, confetti would go off, lights and everything. So this time they saved it to the middle of the set, and he sang Space Oddity and then got into the ball, and while the rest of the band were still playing it, went out onto the. I'm miming here for the benefit.
Yeah,
of those in the
should
room.
say,
You can see
it's,
this.
it's as if he's in a hamster ball. It's amazing.
But yeah, I think played to the crowd, largely stuck to the kind of soft bullet and Yoshimi War with the Mystics era. Nothing from like the albums between War with the Mystics and Oxy Melody, which came out this year. Nothing from Embryonic, nothing from The Terror, you know, so nothing from the various side projects that they've had with Miley Cyrus and everything over the years. It just stuck to, you know, kind of played the hits, as it were, and did it great. And seeing Happy Meal was great as well, because they were terrific. I'd never actually seen them live before, and like I've talked about them in the podcast before. I think they're brilliant on record. And
they worked in the Barras, because that's a big venue.
In the Barras, yeah, really great show as well. Like good, decent light show and everything, and really fit the kind of the. I'd say there's probably a kinship there with the Flaming Lips as well, in terms of like their kind of more psychedelic qualities. That was great. Another Barras gig as well, the LCD Sound System reunion tour rolled into the Barras this year. It's always a very special occasion when LCD Sound System pitch up. Are
you suggesting he's a bit like Frank Sinatra? He keeps going out for one more farewell tour.
But I mean, like it's almost it's uncharitable to just describe it as a reunion tour, because they did put out a new very good record this year as well.
It's an excellent record, you're right.
Which has allayed a lot of my fears, because you know it's that way when one of your favourite bands goes out in a big style, like with a big send off at Madison Square Garden and a commemorative documentary and concert film and the whole whack and everything. You're like, okay, that's great, you ended it, you had a perfect run, you made 3 great albums, you didn't embarrass yourselves, let's just leave it there, let's just have a perfect career. And then 5 years later they're like, actually we're back, and there's that apprehension of like, oh no, this is going to be what if it's shit, what if they like completely fuck up their legacy here, what if they ruin it, you know? And thankfully they didn't. I believe
fans of Shed 7 are thinking that very thing.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's the perennial concern of any Shed 7 fan. But it was great. Really, really great. And they are coming back next year, but it's quite pricey. So I don't know if I'll be doing round 2 with LCD Sound System quite yet. But it was great. But I mean, I don't want to just talk about reunion tours and stuff. But Arab Strap at the Kelvin Grove Bandstand as well. Honey Blood opening was a very, very memorable show. Just looking further down the list here. Saw the Magnetic Fields at the Edinburgh Festival. Went through they did their latest album, 50 Song Memoir, which is, as the title suggests, he's quite good with literal titles, Stephen Merritt. It's 50 songs. So it's a long album. It's on 5 CDs, I believe. And they played the entirety of it over 2 nights. So the first night was the first 25 songs, second night was the second 25 songs.
Good to admire his commitment.
Absolutely. Had a stage set around him and stuff. It was like a kind of a recreated kind of living room kind of set almost, or a house that he had around with kind of mementos and trinkets from throughout his life, and there was narration between the songs and all this kind of stuff, so it was almost like a one-man show that just also happened to have a band around him. But yeah, really, I'm glad to see. I mean, and it was just that album. There wasn't any crowd-pleasing encore performance of the Book of Love or anything like that, or I Don't Want to Get Over You. It was literally just the 50 songs that just the 50 songs that make up the album. So that was really cool. And yeah, I'm just trying to think of like other kind of smaller stuff. Sheer Mag at Mono was excellent. I don't know, do you know Sheer Mag?
No.
They're kind of American, kind of punk band, but kind of heavily influenced by like 70s classic rock and like Thin Lizzy and stuff like that, with a female singer, and they're kind of feminist and lefty, but at the same time sound like they're playing The Boys Are Back in Town, so it's pretty fun. Along kind of similar lines, Downtown Boys at Stereo, who are kind of a again feminist lefty punk band with Latinx extraction, and just really it put on a really cool energetic show, and it feels like the kind of thing is quite necessary just now in a political sense, to just kind of reaffirm.
I've just clocked the length of his list, Wesley. We could be here for some time.
It's fine. I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm just trying to scroll through some of the other highlights. Kraftwerk. So Kraftwerk this year.
Wow!
Yeah.
Always make time for Kraftwerk.
That's right, exactly. Which, I mean, you could debate how much of it is actually live, because it is just, and how much they're actually doing it, or if it's just the kind of shock and awe of the light show. I mean, they handed out 3D glasses as you come in and stuff.
It is them. It's not.
It's Ralph. It's Ralph Witter.
Yes.
And it's Ralph Witter plus 3.
I thought it was maybe some kind of Ex Machina thing.
Exactly. Well, don't maybe at some point, that'll be on. That's like instead of a hologram, they'll just have. And they did bring out animatronics at the encore. You're right. They did bring out robots. For one song of the encore,
I think about the parent from Scissor Sisters.
I was like, what?
Yeah, they brought out animatronics. Yeah, and they all they duetted. A Kraftwerk remix of "Take Your Mama." But I will one last shout actually for live stuff this year. I don't know if we mentioned it last year at all, but the Start to End nights that originated at the Hug and Pint. There had only been, I think, one of them when we recorded last year, so we might not have mentioned it. But basically, they're put on by two of the guys from Piranha Mama, Martin, who drums, and Craig, who's a multi-instrumentalist, and Joe Rattray, who's the bassist for Admiral Fallow. And they kind of came up with this idea of having a series of nights where they and other guest musicians would perform classic albums in full.
Yeah.
So they started off last November with In Rainbows by Radiohead, like a bit of ambition to kind of set the bar, and they kind of more or less lived up to that since then. Since then, they've done In the Airplane
Daft Punk, didn't they?
Yeah, they did Discovery by Daft Punk. They did In the Airplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel. They did Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. The Reminder by Feist. Grace by Jeff Buckley.
It's a real eclectic mix.
The most recent one I've seen. I know they did Rumours by Fleetwood Mac up in Aberdeen as part of the True North Festival, I think. And they're doing a couple Celtic Connections in January as well. They're doing Solid Air by John Martin and Court
At the Glad Cafe, I think.
No, at RMR.
Oh, are they? Okay, there's some John Martin night at the Glad.
And Court and Spark by Johnny Mitchell are both part of Celtic Connections. But the most recent one I saw them do was Black Star by Bowie, which they did. I think was the initial spark of the idea. After Bowie died, they did a night in Block where they covered the album in full as a kind of tribute to him, and then that was kind of the origin of the wider night. So this was almost like a repeat performance of that. Now that they kind of built up a bit more of an audience, and it was tremendous. They've all been great. Like the thing is, like you go along and you're like, is this just going to be like a bad tribute night? But it's not. It's something slightly different about it because it's not. They're not concerned about getting the details exactly right. They get the spirit of the thing right, I think. So it's not necessarily getting vocalists who sound exactly like the singers do on record, or making sure that they hit every single note as it's played on record. But it's a group of fans playing to a group of fans. I think that's what pushes it over. Everybody in the room knows every word to every song, and like it's done with a spirit of love, and it's that enthusiasm I think that carries it over and really sells it, because everyone has been absolutely fantastic.
So it's not the Counterfeit Clash or Pete's Loaf, which is always my favourite name of a...
Nobody's dressing up. Nobody's chucking on like Jeff Mangum's hat or anything like that. Nothing's like...
The rest is Joni Mitchell.
Exactly, yeah. Wearing Kevin Shields like baggy jeans or whatever. So it's they're heartily recommended if you can catch one of them.
Wesley, gigs for you for the year?
Yeah, I mean, touched on LCD at the Barras. Obviously, it was a phenomenal show. I think I'm pretty sure that was between the period of where I saw LCD. Sigur Rós played a couple of days after, and I seen the National at the Usher Hall the night after, which I will discuss later.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
I'd love to want to keep the listeners,
Yeah, absolutely.
Not being a shit, but I'll tell you later. But yeah, so quite a kind of weird run of gigs. It was like phenomenal artists. So saw LCD, National, Sigur Rós, and then I think within a few days or a week saw my top gig of the year, which was Nick Cave at the Hydro. Which I was like Nick Cave with the hydro.
Yeah.
How dare you play the hydro? I'm not going to go to this. This is obscene. And then the more I thought about it, it's even more concerned when the album came out, and it's one of these most intimate albums that he's recorded in terms of subject and kind of the sound of the album. And I was like, how is this going to work in the hydro? And then when the tour started, I watched a couple of videos, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking back to the first time I ever saw Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds at Tina Park of all places in 2009, I'm going to say 8-9, headlining the NME stage to 1,000 people, while everyone else was watching Kings of Leon and The View and Crystal Castles, and how utterly phenomenal the show was, and like completely transcended any experience I've ever had at a gig ever. And that was outdoors in a field, so I was like, of course it's going to work in the hydro. And then you forget that actually Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, even though their music might not sound it on record, their entire show is made to be seen in the biggest venue possible.
Well, it is recently, they've been doing it, absolutely.
Exactly, and it's like you kind of forget that because you're so used and spoiled by them coming over and going, I'm going to play the baddest. I'm going to do an intimate piano show in the concert hall to 2,000 people, and you're just expecting that, and that's what you come to expect of them. So still a little bit of apprehension going along to see it at the hydro, and my God, did they absolutely own the entire venue. It was phenomenal from start to finish, and he managed to make it feel like I was in the bars again. It was
that's amazing, because the hydro is a huge venue.
And I think the way he did it really was to get everyone up on stage at the end, which is kind of a little bit of a kind of been there, done that, everybody does it, Chic do it all the time and all that kind of thing, and you don't expect Nick Cave to do it, but I think he said in an interview that was his way of sort of rewarding his fans for getting them through a really difficult period. Obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, I'd imagine you do, that obviously his son tragically died very recently, and it was amazing, and the way he came into the crowd and used the space in the crowd, and obviously used the crowd to elevate him in the air. And I mean, it's like he is everybody's messiah, if you like. It's literally like watching this room full of people just in complete awe of a guy at work. And don't forget his band, who are incredible. I mean, I do it myself and guilty of dropping the Bad Seeds, but the Bad Seeds are a very important part of that music and of the live show. But that was phenomenal for me. Did you go to that too?
I was there too, yeah. I mean,
I even missed the Celtic game for it. There you go.
There you go. No higher praise.
I've forced away one in Europe for quite some time, and I'm at Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds, and definitely picked the right thing to do. But I finally got to see I think my number one album that I discussed last year was Elsa Suarez album. If anyone doesn't remember or didn't listen to last year's, is a Brazilian samba singer who's been kicking about for years. She's in her mid-70s at the very least, I think, and has kind of had a really, really torrid, tough life, and has kind of channeled that into her music, as a lot of artists do, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But she brought out an amazing album last year that I just had no clue about, that I just absolutely fell in love with, and I got to see her. She was playing Primavera, which I went to this year, and I'll touch on that maybe a little bit, but that's not where I got to see her. I managed to see her in New York of all places, and I could not believe my luck when it happened to be that she was playing the town hall during the 5 days that I was there. And I went along myself, and I was in a room full of this beautiful little venue, like just right off Times Square, round the corner from Times Square, and smallish kind of theatre venue. I think it's maybe just one tier above the stall venue, the stalls area, and it wasn't even full, but 80 to 90% of the audience were Portuguese, Brazilian. I could never felt more out of place in my entire life. This big, tall, lanky, white, skinny Scottish guy at this gig, and it was astonishing. It was just the perfect place to see her, and she was incredible. Her stage show was phenomenal as well. She's not got the energy, and she's not fit enough to move about the stage, so she sits in a massive throne that is designed to look like her dress is covering the whole throne.
Wow.
And she's got a dancer that comes out during one song that kind of climbs the throne looking at her as if she's like this goddess, which she is ultimately. And there was an amazing point in the show where she was she brought all of these kind of dancers out, these male topless dancers out, who just kind of stood and stared at her like that, like kind of, I'm kind of doing this for the podcast, but kind of with her arms out, looking towards her and pointing towards her, completely static and motionless, while the light just shined on top of them, and there was this kind of blue light that shimmered across the stage. And then she sung this kind of traditional Brazilian political song that I didn't really know about until I kind of left, and there was a lot of kind of protests going on because of the politics that's happening over there just now with the government, and I was like, I can't believe I'm witnessing this. It was remarkable. So those were my two best gigs. Other than that, Sigur Rós at the Armadillo was fantastic. Been a fan of them for ages. Never really got the chance to see them until now. I've missed them so many times, and it was spectacular. I'm glad I was seating for it as well. It was all seating, but it kind of feels like the gig that you need to sit down because it's just so overwhelming. And Slowdive, Art School. And
I missed that. Yeah.
That ABC show, I thought it's not going to top the Art School. I was like, I got to see Slowdive in the Art School. That's fantastic. Going to the ABC and just blew it out of the water. It was incredible. And then destroyed my eardrums at Sun at SWG3 as well, which was an interesting experience. I've never, for anyone who's not familiar with Sun, that a band who come out dressed in cloaks and just play incredibly loud drone music that even with your earplugs in, with the highest setting, the highest filter, still completely shakes your entire body, and my nose was vibrating and my cheeks were sore from the vibrations of the noise, and it was unbelievable. And
the only time I've ever felt anything like that was Sonic Youth. And so I can understand it there.
It's incredible, and SWG3 as well. It was up from St Luke's, which would have been a beautiful venue for it, because you can just imagine they fill the room with smoke.
Shattered the windows inside.
Yeah, exactly. It's very specific though, like they fill the venue with smoke, and you can imagine like they play a lot of churches because it kind of fits with their aesthetic. And it's very much about the experience as opposed to the music, although a lot of kind of drone metal fans will, I suppose, argue the point on that, which is fair enough. But seeing it in SWG3 when you go in and it's already dark and it's already an anxious venue is something else entirely. And then a gig I kind of forgot about actually was Anna Meredith at the CCA, because it was so early on in the year.
That's what I've got written down.
For Ali to touch on. But I thought it was important to mention the Six Music Festival actually.
Right, yes.
Because some of the lineups were a bit mixed, and it was one of those ones that I would have loved to have dipped in and out of different venues to see different artists, but the importance of having that kind of a festival
in Glasgow
was remarkable, and the atmosphere around the city was second to none. Going from seeing field music in King Tut's, standing next to Tom Robinson, just bopping his head along to this remarkable small band that are kind of up and coming, and a perfect venue for it, with Stephen Lack recording his radio show just round the corner, and like half an hour before it, to going to the Barrowlands, one of the best venues of all time, and seeing the likes of Thundercat and Songhoy Blues were a new discovery for me, and Warpaint, Ride, Loyal Carner, nipping across to see Car City Headdress in St Luke's, and it was just an amazing atmosphere.
It was fantastic to have that.
And the use of the tramway as well for the kind of daytime events was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you make the most of
Pronto Mama at King Tut's for the BBC introducing stage, which it was Tom Robinson and Vic Galloway kind of introduced the acts. So it was Pronto Mama, St Martin's, J.R. Green, and I can't remember the fourth, but it was like a four band.
But it was just such a lot of great music.
Yeah,
and you're right, it was difficult because you were kind of pulled here, there, and everywhere. But
also Belle and Sebastian and Whitney and Julia Jacqueline at the Academy on the closing night. But yeah, those were my two Six Music Fest experiences.
So my gigs of the year, the first one I was going to mention is Anna Meredith at the CCA, and we've spoken about her before, but wow, what a show. I mean, it was just astonishing in one of the smaller rooms at the CCA. It wasn't loud, but it blew you away. What a band she's got. Managed to get the if anything, better than the album. That's what I thought. If anything, the live experience was better than the record and the varmints. And ever since that, and if I ever get a chance to see Anna Meredith, I will jump at it, because she's just astonishing live. I've already mentioned Have Four Things, but that gig at the Voodoo Rooms, small room, but again, really loud. It was the first time in a long time where I've had ringing the next day in the years going, oh, really? But it was all worth it. And as I've said about Have Fun Things, they're really something to look out for next year. Slightly, again, this is going back to the idea of nostalgia, but this was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And it was the Skids at the Academy. And I went with my brother, big Skids fan from back in the day. It was just to see a band so delighted to be there, because the Skids decided to reform, and they were going to do, I think, like a couple of gigs in Dunfermline and Fife and pubs, and that was going to be it. And then it kind of grew legs from there, and folk were saying, no, you're not going to put a gig on here, there. They ended up doing a world tour, I think. And they sold out the Academy in Glasgow. And Richard Johnson came out, and it was like a prize winner. It was like someone had gone, yeah, you've won the. He was punching the air and he was laughing, and it was just, and the whole crowd of middle-aged men just sang and cried, and it was. I mean, these things can often be overdone. Obviously, there's a big market in it, because look at the bands that are, like, as you say, Weezer coming back. If they're nostalgia, then it's an odd thing, but. Yeah, it was there's a lot to be said for it, and actually, with that in mind, Hipsway are doing 3 sold-out nights at the Academy. Oh. Hipsway, I mean, it just astonishes me, but there you go. Another great night, again in Edinburgh, when I went to see the launch of Stephen McLaren's album on Errant Media, supported by Errant Boy, who are one of my favourite bands. But also, in between the two acts was Brave Little Note and Jacqueline, I can't remember her second name. Never heard her music before, never seen it before. She's classically trained. What a sound. It was her, and she was accompanied by someone else. And you can go to her SoundCloud page and listen to her music. It's kind of like nothing you'll have heard. I'm trying to think. There's a bit of St Vincent and Bjork, but very much individual. So I'd definitely check her out. And if you ever get the chance, if you see the name Brave Little Note on a poster, then go for it. And Modern Studies and Loman Campbell at the Edinburgh Festival played a church down in Stockbridge. And I mentioned their albums last year. I think they're the best albums of 2016, and I think they're both getting re-released on other labels. I think they're going to hit a wider audience, but they were fantastic together. They covered each other's songs. There was just a real sense of playfulness in this beautiful church. The acoustics were amazing, and that was a great gig. And the final one I'm going to mention is Starless, Celtic Connections last year. This is Paul McGeechan's project. Paul McGeechan was in Love and Money back in the day, and he's used his connections well, because the album, again, I think I mentioned it last year, features Julie Fowlis, Mary Claire White, Karen Matheson, Chris Thompson from the Bathers. The album's got Paul Buchanan from the Blue Nile on it. Unfortunately, he didn't play the Mitchell Library gig, fingers were crossed, but Graham Skinner from Hipsway did in his place. And yeah, it's a great record, and to hear all these different singers collaborate with him was a great night. What I would like to, now this is a bit self-indulgent, but I'm going to do it anyway. My brother owns the Braemar Gallery up north, and he started putting gigs on this year, and some of my favourite nights were the gigs up at the gallery, including Sister Rose, Mark W. Georgeson, who played with Barry James O'Neill, who was in Cassidy, and I didn't really know Barry's stuff. He supported Mark up there, and what a night that was. I don't think he played for a while, and you could tell that there was a bit of apprehension, but particularly once he got behind the keyboard and he played, and this voice and the songs, it was quite an emotional night. It was the small gigs, I should say, you can only get about 40 people in the gallery. It's a great place to see music if you manage it. And he put on other night. Jeffrey Lewis bizarrely played there, and Alistair Roberts is going to play there this week on Friday. But yeah, so that's absolutely a plug for my family and their gallery, but they are great nights. It's a great place to see music. I'm aware of, we're trying to keep this in a manageable time. If we talk about albums of the year without going into them too much, is that a possibility?
Sure,
if we say,
yeah.
5. What are you looking for? 50?
I don't know. I don't even have a set number in mind. But yeah, no, I'll find some. Just before we leave gigs entirely, the small room chat reminded me of. I also saw a gig in LP Records, the record shop we were talking about the label earlier. They hosted Craig Finn, frontman of the Hold Steady, earlier in the year for about 30 people. So Craig Finn was doing what he called a living room tour, where basically.
Did you not have a restraining order?
It's finally lifted out. Put on my moustache and like my Groucho glasses and got in. But no, they so Craig Finn was doing a living room tour where basically you could bid to have him come to your city and perform in your house.
Wow.
And Lorenzo put the bid in for Glasgow, or won the bid for Glasgow. So Craig Finn played in the shop for about 30 people, and it was just him with an acoustic guitar, and he did mostly solo stuff. He's put out a very good solo record this year, probably the best thing he's done in about 8-9 years at this point. And then but did finish with a Hold Steady song, and yeah, it was amazing. Just told stories in between the songs and everything. It was an amazing night.
Small and intimate is the way to go, definitely.
Absolutely.
Apart, unless you're Nick Cave, obviously.
But albums of the year, I mean, there's a lot of really great, new stuff coming through, and a lot of really great, more experimental and forward-thinking stuff. But honestly, the album I probably listened to most this year and I had the most fun with this year was 16s by Los Campesinos. You've been kicking about for a while, I think this is album 6, I believe, 6 or 7, maybe thereabouts. And I'd honestly never really given them that much time before. I had their last album, No Blues, which was a birthday present a few years ago, and I liked it, but again, not to the point where I'd consider them. It wasn't in my top 5 or anything for the year. But yeah, something about 16s just really grabbed me. Again, just I don't know, it was just one of those right time, right place kind of thing to hear an album. I think it's just a really great indie pop rock record, just enough emo, just emo enough, I think is how I put it, and really wittily written and performed, and it really kind of ultimately quite life affirming, and really loved that. Other than that, it's probably just a lot of hip hop. My albums this year, as usual, the usual suspects like Kendrick Lamar put out another very very good album this year. I'll probably. More low key than I think people were probably expecting. I mean, there's only really one way you could go after it: To Pimp a Butterfly, which is this sprawling magnum opus that kind of defined a certain kind of mood, a certain kind of vibe in the air. Circa 2015 is really this kind of defining cultural moment. And when you suddenly have that burden placed on you of being the saviour of modern music, is well, what else can you do but try and downscale appropriately and kind of pull back.
Or you can be like Kanye and go nuts.
Yeah. Well, that too. But there's still time. This is only he's still relatively early in his career. But Damn is very good. Damn is the name of the record, all caps with a full stop at the end. And yeah, it has its kind of grandstanding moments. It's got DNA and Humble, but a lot of it's a lot more kind of low key than I think people were maybe expecting. There is a surprise U2 collaboration on one track, which works. It does work. Along similar lines, the Vince Staples album this year, Big Fish Theory, excellent. Again, Kendrick puts in an unexpected guest appearance on that. When the album dropped, it didn't have any featuring credits or anything on it, so you just go through, and then as you're listening, all of a sudden Kendrick appears, and that was a very kind of simple upright kind of moment. It's Kendrick's on a Vince Staples track. This is amazing. But great. A lot more kind of, I don't want to say experimental, but it's a lot, the backing, the kind of the beats are a lot more dancey, a lot more electronic than you'd maybe expect from a lot of contemporary hip hop. It feels like it's maybe taking its cues from, not to invoke Kanye too much, but maybe taking its cues from Fade, at the end of the life of Pablo. A lot more kind of not even club oriented, but just kind of more kind of. It plays about with electronic textures in a more interesting way than you necessarily expect from a lot of hip hop. Jay-Z's album this year, 444, is the best thing he's done since he retired. I mean, I don't know if people even remember at this point, but for a year or so in the mid-2000s, Jay-Z was technically retired after he put out the Black Album. He said that was it, he was done, and since then I've pretty much wished that he had ended it that way, because it felt like he had an LCD. That is partly why I was so apprehensive about LCD Sound System coming back, because Jay-Z fucked it so royally when he came back. He had this amazing run from the mid 90s through to early 2000s, capped off with the Black Album. Brilliant album, run of shows to say goodbye and retire, and that was it. And then a couple of years later he came back and just made a string of really mediocre albums, notwithstanding Watch the Throne, his collaboration with Kanye. But 444 was the last album in what's coming to be known as the Elevator Trilogy, which is the string of albums that has resulted from the kind of paparazzi tabloidy incident where Solange Knowles belted Jay-Z in an elevator, and it was caught on security footage. So you had, of course, Beyonce's Lemonade, Solange's A Seat at the Table, and now Jay-Z's 444, and they all deal to varying degrees with broadly similar themes, be it like, you know, like their own kind of personal lives or whatever, and kind of the nature, like infidelity, like Jay-Z cheating on Beyonce and the kind of repercussions that kind of came from that. But also, I think like that kind of tabloid drama kind of has tended to overshadow in all cases, like with Lemonade as well, kind of broader themes about like, you know, empowerment and kind of like the political moment and you know, identity and a lot of this kind of thing going on. And there's some stuff on 444 that is kind of bracing to hear on a Jay-Z album, even if it is just admissions of failure, which is not something you ever really expect to hear from Jay-Z. There's a track about him kind of not even coming to terms with just appreciative his discovering that his mother was gay and like coming to terms with that and kind of the implications of that, and you know, all this kind of thing. And it's really the strongest thing that he's done in a long time. So yeah, very much in favour of that. And it's too soon I think it's far too soon to really say where it places in kind of any year-end rankings, because we're 6 days out from his release, but Bjork put out an album this year, which is always a massive deal. Yeah. Utopia, which is her, which she's described as her Tinder record, following her divorce record, which is what Vilna was, which was you know, a kind of bracing listen in places, and kind of the depths it plunged. But so it's still very early going, as with most Bjork albums. Is a pretty challenging listen at times. You know, it's kind of like it takes a bit of work to get a handle on quite what she's doing, because she is so far ahead of everyone else still after 20, 30 years of doing this. But yeah, it's very much obviously worth your time and getting a hold of a copy. There are obviously like dozens more records I could talk about by See the Floor.
We've all got homes to go to eventually.
Melodrama by Lorde. Sorry, that was the one I wanted to shout out for.
Yeah, I mean, Chris touched on a few there. Kendrick Lamar and Vince Staples for me is this always seems to happen. The past few years, especially, hip hop's been a really, really high standard, as has R&B, and Chris and I always end up gushing over the same hip hop albums usually. And Kendrick and Vince have been no exception. Like, kind of going on what Chris already said, Kendrick sort of really positioned himself away from every other hip hop artist onto Pimp a Butterfly, and he's brought it right back to a sort of like almost mocking sort of sense of like what is popular right now, trap music, Drake, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, I'm just going to make an album like that, but I'm going to show how much better I am at doing it than everyone else. And it's just this sort of kind of mocking, but yet also humble at the same time. And it's amazing, kind of just all the tropes of that kind of music, but still proves to be in an entirely different league. And Vince Staples can't really add much more to it. Lots of kind of R&B influences on it with a kind of electronic beat over it. I mean, there's like even like a Hollaback Girl kind of vibe song on there. It's fantastic. But for me, this album that I've not had off all year since it came out is SZA's album Control. It's incredible. I mean, it's just at a point with R&B at the moment. It's just R&B to me is some of the most perfect music of all time when it's created in such a way that this record is created, and it just is another example of it. It's like I was kind of trying to think about how to even put it into words like earlier on, and it's just this sort of album of kind of stark emotional contrast, like and it's all kind of really put together really craftily. I mean, she sings about kind of quite candidly about kind of deep insecurities and relating to kind of love and sex and relationships and growing up as a not very popular kind of teenager. Yet it oozes a sort of admirable and kind of assured self-confidence that you don't really get with the lyrical content, but you get in the feel of the album itself. And it's just, for me, it's just everything R&B should be. It's just intimate and complex and emotional and honest, and it's just absolutely outstanding. And a really nice companion piece to that is Kalela's album, Take Me Apart, which is a real slow burner, but kind of you gradually kind of peel away the layers of it. And there's this kind of really luscious R&B at the heart of it. And it's like just kind of total medicine for the soul. It's amazing. I mean, I really enjoyed both of those releases, and Scissor's number one for me. But another album I really enjoyed that I wasn't really familiar with before was Suzanne Sundfur's album, which is called Music for People in Trouble. Basically, it's this Norwegian singer-songwriter, and I basically first heard a song called Good Luck, Bad Luck, played on Six Music during the insufferable Radcliffe and Maroney that we usually fight over in the office to turn off during their terrible chat. And they played a song, and initially for some reason I didn't really like it. Her voice didn't connect with me, and I can't think for the life of me why it didn't, but straight away I was like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this. I wish another song would maybe come on. And then this sort of Parisian jazz element just kind of came out of nowhere and just really drew me in. It was like kind of walking down the cobbled streets of the Seine and like bypassing the kind of smoky jazz bar and hearing this music coming out. And I just went on and checked it out on Spotify, and she just released a new single with John Grant, which was called Mountaineers, and it's like the soundtrack to like the Scandi apocalypse basically. It's phenomenal. And I just kind of realised that she'd had a show the following week, so I went along to see her at the CCA, and it was phenomenal. And you don't really pick it up much on the record, but she sings very much like Rufus Wainwright live. That sort of reverse harmony kind of melody that he does.
So John Grant, actually, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, it was great, and I think she's played it quite a lot with her band live back home, but she just played it on her own here. It was excellent. A couple other ones, really not much to go into, but The National, really excellent album.
We want to hear the National story before we finish.
It's not that interesting. It's a really excellent album, and it's
it is a good record. I've read it.
Really visceral and got this kind of pulsating beat going through it that a lot of the National albums don't have, and it does become richer and more rewarding with every single listen that I've had so far. And I'm one of those National fans that they could bring out anything and I'm like, oh, it's the National, we'll just continue to do the same thing, and I love it. But they edged out their comfort zone ever so slightly, and it just really worked for me. But I was just really let down with the live show. They just didn't really reach the same heights that it usually reaches, and I was really surprised by it. I was so excited to see it, and seen them in Usher Hall before, and I love the Usher Hall as a venue, and went on to see it live, and it just did not work at all. It just did not have there was just a disconnect between him and the audience, and it was just really strange for me. I was just really disappointed by it. But I've been listening to a lot of interchanging between J-Som and Japanese Breakfast album this year. We touched on Japanese Breakfast earlier.
Breakfast album's amazing.
It's great, yeah. And it's a kind of record I've really grown to appreciate over the year. There's definite ups and downs of it for me, but the whole is kind of greater than the sum of its parts, as they say. And it sounded tremendous live as well, and it really kind of sits nicely beside Cyclepomp, which is a record they brought out last year. But J-Som's album is excellent as well, kind of just effortless, kind of up and coming artist. There's this kind of effortless record that she's brought out. Her name was like a product of the Wu-Tang generator, which was also what gave Childish Gambino his name. But I'm really excited to see what comes from her. And one that kind of came out recently, apart from Slow Dive, which I must admit I need to touch on how amazing that album was. I mean, 22 years away to come back with an album that remarkable is...
This was perhaps the most
outstanding,
unexpected comeback, I think, of the
definitely.
year.
I mean, it really was. Like, again, I was thinking about how to put that into words as well, and it's like during a time where kind of all these bands are reforming, and you think they're just kind of doing it for the novelty factor. There's just something else there entirely with Slow Dive, and it's like either testament its craft to their songwriters, or it's like maybe just like the sheer comfort of being enveloped in that kind of layer of kind of hazy guitars and the sort of like falsetto vocals. It's kind of all over the record. Maybe it's just the comfort of being enveloped in that again when it's been away for so long. That just made it such a great record. But Charlotte Gainsbourg recently,
that's a cracking record.
Really good. I mean, I wasn't really familiar with her musical output at all before. I knew she
555 is a great record as well.
I've now read up on, but I mean, other than that song, obviously with her father, which we won't go into, I was more kind of a favour with her film career, to be honest, with the kind of Lars von Trier stuff. And I never realised how extensive her discography actually is, but I barely had it off since it was released. The kind of 80s kind of synth stuff that's going through it. I mean, and for me it's like, sounds like John Carpenter in places as well, which I'm all over, but it's full of all these little imperfections as well, and it's not actually a overall perfect album, but all those little blemishes and imperfections just make it even more honest and raw and affecting, and I love it.
It's not a big production at all. It's absolutely, maybe you could imagine it done in 2 or 3 takes and said, right, we've done that one, move on.
Definitely. And I think for me, that's really it. I mean, another few albums to kind of give a shout out to. Obviously, War and Drugs brought out a War and Drugs album, and I really enjoyed it. There was Stormzy. Let's not forgo that, because that is a phenomenal album, and he gets a lot of comparisons to Skepta. But Stormzy, for me, his album from start to finish was a piece of art. It was absolutely fantastic. Pro Tomato record was great, as was Thundercat. Aldous Harding was a really affecting record that I didn't really realise until after a couple of listens, and really, really grabbed me. I really like Chelsea Wolfe, Phoebe Bridgers, Courtney Marie Andrews. Broken Social Scenes album was really good as well, actually. But yeah, again, another really strong year for women in music at a time where it's probably needed more now than ever.
I think because Chris will be getting annoyed that he wasn't allowed to go into his list.
No. I wanted to give one, but I forgot. I mean, I don't know if reissues count in terms of stuff. But in terms of one of the things that I've enjoyed most this year, I don't even know if it counts as a reissue, because I don't know that many people necessarily heard it the first time around. But Alice Coltrane, Luca Bob, David Byrne's label, released a compilation called "The Ecstatic Music of Alice Coltrane Turiya Sangitananda," which is she went into in the 80s. She went into an ashram and kind of devoted herself to Eastern spirituality, and this is the kind of devotional music that she made while she was in there. It was initially circulated on a few cassettes that came out between the mid 80s and the mid 90s, and it's been reissued now as this compilation by Luca Bob, and it's absolutely incredible. Like, it's just, I mean, she's phenomenal anyway. Like, I think there's been a real kind of resurgence of interest in Alice Coltrane over the last few years. Has really been notable, like, in not just being, she was John Coltrane's wife, just being she was an incredible musician
absolutely.
in her own right, and like the stuff that she was doing in the 70s was just beyond, like, so, like, the vast majority of what jazz was doing at that time, just in her reach and her kind of scope and her vision. And the thing about this music is that we're so used to devotional music coming from, like, Western spirituality. We're so used to being of a Christian nature, whether it's like gospel choirs or like Handel's Messiah or whatever it is. You have this kind of framework where it's a Christian framework, and so to hear something like that, but with that kind of Eastern influence, it just sounds like nothing else. Because although it's Eastern spirituality that she's singing towards, she's still rooted in these kind of Western influences, so she still has the influence of jazz and like gospel choirs and all this kind of other. There's just a lot going on with it, and it sounds like nothing else, and it's absolutely incredible. Like, it would sound. It's one of these things. When I say it's like one of my favorite albums of the year, I played the Robert Christgau talking about the Basement Tapes defense, which is like, it doesn't matter that it was recorded in 1968. It would be the best album of 1974. It would be the best album of 1998. It will be the best album of whatever year's released, because it's just that good, and that's kind of how I feel about the Alice Coltrane comp that came out this year. Well, a similar jazz tip as well, again, not to just rail through a list, but if you're looking for something that I feel got very little attention, a jazz musician called Christian Scott Atunde Adjoa, who is a jazz trumpeter, put out 3 albums this year, a trilogy, Ruler, Rebel, Diaspora, and The Emancipation Procrastination. And I feel like if he'd put them out all as one release, like Kamasi Washington did a few years ago, he might have got more attention for it. But he put them out, just kind of staggered them throughout the year, and they're all interconnected and all of a piece, but they're very good, worth seeking out if you like. There's elements of like Terence Blanchard and stuff in there as well. A lot of it sounds like it could be soundtrack, along similar lines as kind of like some of his soundtrack work for Spike Lee, but there's also elements of that kind of like LA beat scene and like, put Kamasi Washington, Kendrick, like Flying Lotus, all that kind of stuff. He covers Videotape by Radiohead on one of them, and it's one of the best Radiohead covers I've ever heard, so there's a recommendation for you.
Well, we could, I think, probably do this all night, and once this microphone's turned off, we may well do that. I'll get through the rest of the list. But we're going to call a halt there, so thanks very much for listening. Thank you to Chris.
Thank you caught me as I was taking the sip.
Thank you to Wesley.
Thank you again.
Thank you to Ian, as always.
Cheers.
And we will be back with another podcast with the best books of 2017, and remember to have a listen to our best films of 2017 as well. But until then, thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon. Cheers.